Welcome all to the hunt, and today we shall be hunting the other crazy bats, the scared Yian Garuga. My other crazy ass ex-wife.
Oh, my third wife was biracial.
I don't like this one. I don't like this one. And my lack of hunts for this monster has made me really appreciate the fact that I just despise bull like that. I really do. I really do. Like, oh, those are my two first feints in this entire hour of recording. My two first feints. And this entire interaction lasted maybe 15 to 20 seconds. And if we're including death timer, probably 30 seconds. At most! Ridiculous, I tell you. Ridiculous! Anyway, the scared Yian Garuga. Yeah, I don't like this one. I don't like this one one bit. First of all, we're fighting a larger scared Yian Garuga, which is the correct size. While scared Yian Garuga, this one seems to be perhaps a tad bigger than most. It's still what I would consider to be a normal size of a Yian Garuga. The one that we fought prior to this was only a miniature because of the event quest that we're in, since scarred Yian Garuga doesn't have this luxury of having a smaller miniature version, meaning that I can potentially fight something that, you know, is of actual size and of actual health pool and actual hitboxes that you're supposed to deal with. I was a little bit out of practice on that one, and thus felt pretty confident about some of my moves out there. I was moving like Jagger, and wasn't doing too hot either. But from there, the main thing that distinguishes the scared Yian Garuga from the original Yian Garuga, it's both in lore and in combat, is the fact that this thing, it may have scare is in his name, but I assure you, this thing is not scared of you one single bit. See, the thing is, the scared Yian Garuga in lore is a Yian Garuga that survived a hunt. Perhaps a monster that you captured and thus released, or just fought against a hunter and then fled off the scene. Thus, it got scared in the encounter. Even so, I'd be willing to wager that the aggression tuner in the program of Monster Hunter World, like there's an aggression tuner, that thing is dialed up to bloody 11 with the scarred Yian Garuga. This thing seems way more aggressive than its original, and thus in lore, once it sees you at like perhaps another huge predator that wants to avoid at all costs. With that said, it somehow also makes the Yian Garuga a much more ferocious opponent, somehow? Somehow, someway, the scarred Yian Garuga is now more powerful than its original counterpart by learning a couple of new moves that I do not enjoy to fight, but it still is a thing. From there, in combat, it doesn't like to flee, it's incredibly aggressive, and the new move that it learns are quite oppressive. You saw them during my two first knockouts, my two first feints. Oh my god, stop busting up the camera, would ya? And they're pretty much what I would call hellfire attacks. I don't know what their official names are, but it's basically hellfire rain, or rain hellfire, or whatever. Essentially, what the scared Yian Garuga will do is that it'll fly up, and as soon as he flies up, he either does crescent moon shaped AoE in front of him, or side swipe to either the left or to the right, and does another crescent moon shaped pattern with constant fireball attacks. It's such a large area of effect ability. It'd be comparable to Lunastra's move, except they explode in your bloody face, they hurt for way more, and they spit out at such a fast rate, and also it's unpredictable because it's all of the shots that he fires are individual shots that land on different part of the environment, making the fight substantially harder than you would think. So like, even though it basically shoots them in a crescent moon fashion, the fireball may land closer or far away from you depending on the elevation that you are standing on or the Yian Garuga is at. And since the ancient forest is filled with bloody difference in elevation, it makes this hunt particularly harder than most of the other ones. Like significantly harder. I wouldn't think it'd be so hard, but it is, which is unfortunate because I think the conceptual idea behind I believe that's what it's called, a deviant. There's a couple of monsters in the Monster Hunter franchise that have pattern where it's like it's an individual experience from a fight or a life period in their time, just like the Bloodbath Diablos would be a good one, which is a deviant. And to me, it seems like the Scared Yian Garuga is that it's an individual evolution from the original that made him, her, whatever, more powerful. And again, really conceptually good idea, but if there was ever a monster that I'd be waging, like I'd be having a wager as to know how little a person actually fight this monster, it'd be the Scarred Yian Garuga, damn it. I know the poll said the Brood Tigrex, but ever since the Brood Tigrex got a pretty sweet event tied to it, I'd be willing to take the polls back and look at which monster is hunted the least. And I'd put money on Scarred Yian Garuga being the least hunted monster in the game. Because you don't do anything with it. There's practically no gear you can make with it. There's practically no materials you can make out of it. And it's an extremely dangerous monster that's not too much fun to fight. Has all of the same problems as the original ex-wife. And also, it has just moves are incredibly annoying since it's also more airborne and far more agile just because of that new moveset in Kit. And I love a lot about the original Yian Garuga, how you can punish all of that, but this one seems to move in and out of airborne attacks way more than the other. So those heavy punish you could usually deal in the beak, you can't do that no more. And I'm really, really sad about it. However, if there's a really neat detail that I really love about the Scarred Yian Garuga, it makes it truly feel like the individuality that it had. If you go in the Yian Garuga episode, which was yesterday, you see the point of the hunt where I break the head of the original Yian Garuga. They're not missing an ear like the Scarred Yian Garuga. So I know this is theoretically very little work, but you still wanted to make the Scarred Yian Garuga a completely different model of the head and look for it to truly give it like an individual value. Then again, I wish the coloration of it may be different, like it had a substantial transformation. So as you see in most subspecies and variants, and even deviants for that matter, Bloodbath Diablos looks very, very different than either Black Diablos or Diablos or all of the other ones, to be perfectly fair. But I really appreciate the fact that they specifically made a new model, just as you see all of the scars like running down from the top of where the heel was all the way to like middle way of the beak, and it truly looks like an actual battle scarred Yian Garuga, and I really, really like it. Now, the reason why I've spent 8 minutes and a half talking about this is because there's absolutely nothing else to talk about the Scarred Yian Garuga. The strategy that usually applies to the normal Yian applies to it. If you look at the math, throw the thing on screen right now, okay? Throw it off, Futurely. Do it. I dare you. I double dare you. So if you look at those stats, you're like, well, I don't know if there's anything different. And the reason is because the stats are exactly the same. The Scared Yian Garuga, it has the exact same stats as the original Yian Garuga. There's nothing interesting to look about this because there's nothing to say about this goddamn monster. It's the same thing. It's a sky. Anyway, in conclusion, fight the normal one. Don't fight this one unless you're crafting a specific weapon out of it, which even then doesn't look too great. And yeah, I don't like this one too much. We'll see you all for another hunt.